The heat outside the Pentagon shimmered like a mirage, but inside the security complex the air felt sharp, chilled, and uneasy. Every sound echoed a little too loudly: the humming of conveyor belts, the sharp clack of boots, the murmured exchanges between officers who were trained to never show nerves. Yet something about the woman approaching the checkpoint made them shift unconsciously, as if bracing for a sudden storm. Elena Marks moved with a quiet steadiness, one hand gripping a worn canvas duffel bag, the other hanging at her side in a relaxed but ready posture. There was nothing outwardly threatening about her. She wasn't big. She wasn't imposing. She wasn't dressed like a high-ranking official or anyone who belonged inside one of the most heavily guarded buildings in the country. But it was the jacket. A plain, black, zippered military jacket without a single insignia, patch, or name tag. No rank, no unit, no purpose. Nobody walked into the Pentagon wearing a blank military jacket. The guard at Station 3 straightened quickly. "Ma'am, ID please." Elena stopped in front of him, the overhead lights glinting faintly off her dark hair. She reached into her pocket, extracted a worn plastic card and slid it across. He picked it up, expecting the usual hologram, the standard blue stripe, the embedded microcode chip. But the badge in his hand was unlike anything he'd scanned before. Thick old laminate, faded print, a clearance code he didn't recognize, and no expiration date. He frowned. "Ma'am, this ID." "Run it," Elena said quietly. He hesitated. Something about her voice made him swallow before nodding. He set the badge against the scanner. The machine beeped. "Error." Another beep. "Error." A third beep, but this time not red, not yellow, blue, a color the guard had never seen once in his 10-year career. The monitor flashed authorized level archive. His jaw tightened. "Archive? I didn't know that level still exists." Elena didn't respond. Two other guards glanced over. One mouthed, "Who is she?" The other shrugged with a look that said, "I don't want to know." Protocol demanded composure, but protocol didn't prepare them for whatever this was. The scanner beeped again, this time signaling the body sweep. Elena stepped through the metal frame. It hummed as it scanned her body. A thin green line traveled from her feet to her forehead. Beep! A sharp, jarring alarm. The guard's spine stiffened. Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step back through slowly." He cleared his throat. "Maybe it's the zipper." Elena stepped backward. Again. She stepped forward. Beep, beep. Not metal, not a weapon, something else. The guard's training told him to stay calm, but the tiny tremor in his hand betrayed him. "Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to remove your jacket." Elena's eyes flicked up, calm, controlled, unreadable. "That won't be necessary." Two guards approached from either side now. Not hostile, not yet, just cautious. "Ma'am," the lead officer repeated, "the scanner is detecting something beneath your clothing. For your safety and ours, the jacket needs to come off." Elena didn't move, didn't blink. "I said no." Her voice wasn't angry. It wasn't emotional. If anything, it sounded like someone reciting a fact that couldn't be argued with. But security protocol did not bend. Not even for visiting senators. Not even for admirals. Certainly not for a woman in an unmarked military jacket. "I'm sorry," the guard said, forcing authority into his tone. "That's not optional." The hallway seemed to grow quieter. Even the humming stopped feeling like background noise and instead felt like something listening. Elena inhaled slowly. "You don't want to see what's underneath." A few guards exchanged glances. Some gave skeptical half-smirks, the kind people make when they think someone trying to be dramatic. The chief guard stepped forward. "Ma'am, cooperate or we'll have to." But he didn't finish. Because suddenly, the elevator at the far end of the hall pinged. The doors slid open. General Damon Hargrove stepped out like an apparition walking straight from a dusty classified photo. His uniform was immaculate. His medals glinted like shards of polished steel. His presence alone usually commanded silence. But today wasn't usual. The moment he saw Elena Marks standing at the checkpoint, his face drained of color. The guards immediately noticed. One whispered, "Is he scared?" General Hargrove's breathing hitched, barely noticeable except to those standing close. He wasn't a man who got startled. He certainly wasn't a man who got afraid. This was the same general who briefed presidents during wartime without breaking a sweat. Yet now he took one step backward. "Elena," he breathed. The guards froze mid-movement. They had never heard Hargrove speak someone's name like that, like he was looking at a ghost, or worse, a condemned memory. He walked forward, but it wasn't the stride of a superior officer approaching a subordinate. There was hesitation in his steps, a tremor in his voice. "Elena Marks, I thought." She cut him off sharply. "Spare me." The guards darted confused looks between them. He knows her. Why is she speaking to him like that? Why does he look terrified? General Hargrove raised a trembling palm toward the guards. "Everyone stand back." One guard blinked. "Sir, she." "I said stand back," the general snapped, voice cracking slightly. It was the crack, the rare break, that scared the guards more than the command. They obeyed quickly. Elena remained still, eyes cold. "You shouldn't be here," Hargrove whispered. "Not like this." "I didn't come for conversation," she replied quietly. The guard at the scanner cleared his throat, trying to regain control. "Sir," she refused to remove. "I know what's under the jacket," Hargrove cut him off sharply. Every guard froze at those words. Hargrove's eyes locked on Elena, as if begging, "Please, not here, not in front of them." Elena's jaw tightened. For the first time, something flickered across her face, not fear, not sorrow, but something deeper, betrayal carved into muscle memory. The guard, now confused and irritated, stepped forward again. "General or no general, protocol says she removes the jacket." Hargrove closed his eyes, pained. "Officer, listen to me." But the guard didn't get the chance. Because suddenly, Elena's fingers moved. Not fast, not dramatic, just deliberate. She reached for the zipper of the jacket. "No," Hargrove whispered. "Elena, don't." She ignored him. The zipper slid downward. 1 inch. 2. The guards leaned in. The hallway held its breath. Hargrove took a step back, as if bracing for an impact no one else could see. Elena pulled the jacket open fully. And the guards saw. Not bruises. Not tattoos. Not shrapnel wounds. But scars. Scars etched in precise, unnatural lines across her shoulders, curling down her collarbones, meeting at her sternum like someone had carved a road map into her flesh. Scars too symmetrical, too deliberate to be anything accidental. Some were old and pale. Others were newer, darker, almost burned into her. One guard's voice cracked. What happened to you?" Hargrove whispered the words he never wanted spoken aloud. "Those marks are classified above all of you," he swallowed. "Above me." The guard stared. Elena stared back. No one moved. And before anyone could even gather the courage to breathe, the overhead lights flickered once. Then again. And then the entire corridor went dark. The darkness pressed against them like a living thing. Emergency red lights flickered on, casting the Pentagon corridor in an eerie, unnatural glow. Shadows stretched and warped over the polished floors, turning the guards' rigid postures into grotesque shapes. Elena stood perfectly still, her breathing steady, despite the adrenaline buzzing in her veins. General Hargrove's hand hovered near his holster, but he didn't draw it. Instead, he stared at her with eyes that could no longer mask the truth. He feared her. And it wasn't just fear of the unknown, it was fear of what she represented. "Elena, I thought you were dead," he whispered, the words fragile, almost mournful. The guards blinked, dead. One of them, a younger officer with a jaw still smooth from youth, swallowed audibly. "Sir, who is she?" Hargrove didn't answer. Instead, he shook his head as though trying to dislodge a memory that refused to fade. Alina's gaze swept across the hall, calculating, unafraid, almost regal in the calm precision of her movements. She did not come here for recognition or conversation. She came to confront ghosts, ones that lived in uniforms, in classified files, in cold corridors like this one. The chief guard cleared his throat, trying to regain authority. "Ma'am, the jacket, please remove it. We have a protocol for this." Alina's lips curved into a faint, bitter smile. "I told you, you don't want to see what's underneath." Some of the guards chuckled nervously. They didn't know whether to be amused or scared. A joke? Maybe. But something in her eyes, the way she held herself like a coiled spring, told them it was no joke. Hargrove's voice cut through the tension, low but deadly urgent. "Do not. She will show you what you're not prepared to understand." The guards froze. This wasn't just a warning, it was a confession. But duty demanded obedience. One guard stepped forward. "Sir, if she refuses." Hargrove lifted a hand, stopping him. His fingers trembled slightly. "You have no idea what you are dealing with." Alina exhaled slowly, deliberately, like a predator deciding it was time to reveal its prey. Then, with the precision of a soldier who had survived every conceivable nightmare, she unzipped her jacket further. The metal teeth of the zipper scraped lightly, a sound amplified in the tense silence. The room felt smaller, tighter, as the fabric parted. Scars. They weren't simple battle wounds. They weren't the kind of injuries healed by time or prayer. They were carefully inflicted, precise and cruel, like someone had etched her survival into her flesh. Pale, silvery tracks ran across her collarbone and shoulders, coiling and intertwining with darker, fresher lines. The patterns weren't random. They looked like the work of someone who had spent hours, days, weeks, planning every cut, every mark, every scar. Hargrove stumbled back slightly. His hand went to his chest, as if bracing against a sudden shock. "You weren't supposed to survive. No one has ever survived that program," he whispered. The guards stared at him blankly. Program, survival, nothing they had been trained to believe could have prepared them for this. They didn't know the half of it. Alina's voice was steady, even controlled. "You used us, all of us, and we were children." The words cut deeper than any blade. Hargrove's lips parted in a pained silence. He had watched the faces of those children, memorized them, documented them. He had written the reports. He had signed the orders. And now one of them, once the youngest, the quietest, stood before him, alive, powerful, untouchable. The youngest officer whispered under his breath, barely audible, "Program? What program?" Hargrove didn't answer. He couldn't. The truth was too heavy, too dangerous, too devastating. "If anyone else sees this, you'll be silenced," he muttered, his eyes darting toward the other guards. Alina's gaze didn't waver. "Then let them come. I'm ready." The flickering red lights cast strange, twisting shadows across the walls. A low hum vibrated through the corridor, something electronic, mechanical. Alina's instincts snapped into place. She had heard that sound before, in compounds she wasn't supposed to remember. It was the sound of someone coming to retrieve what they considered their property. Hargrove's face went pale. "It's too soon, they're here already." Before anyone could react, the metallic echo of heavy boots reverberated down the hall. The synchronized rhythm of movement made Alina stiffen instantly. The same rhythm she had trained to counter during nights that blurred into endless simulations. Nightmare drills designed to kill anyone who couldn't move faster, think faster, survive longer. "They sent a retrieval team," she whispered, voice tight with controlled fear. The general's hand went to his forehead, rubbing furiously. "Damn it, I told them the program was terminated." Her hand went to her duffel bag. The guards shifted instinctively. This wasn't standard procedure. This wasn't a normal security breach. The first shadow emerged from the far corridor, a figure clad in matte black, face obscured by a helmet with reflective visors. The movement was fluid, precise, inhuman. Not a single misstep, not a single hesitation. Alina's pulse accelerated. She recognized the training immediately. These weren't regular soldiers. They were engineered, honed, conditioned to eliminate, retrieve, capture, and not fail. Hargrove stepped forward. "Alina, you must." "I know," she said, her voice low, cold, "and I'll deal with them." The guards didn't move. Some of them instinctively reached for their sidearms, but their hands faltered as fear settled in their bones. The general didn't have to command them. The room itself seemed to acknowledge her authority. The first agent raised a weapon, sleek, black, unfamiliar. A tranquilizer rifle. One shot and her body could be immobilized, stripped of the freedom she had fought to reclaim. But Alina was faster. Her hand shot out, gripping the closest guard's sidearm. She chambered a round with deadly precision, a gesture so fluid it made the younger guards flinch. "Get behind me," she ordered. No hesitation, no explanation, just command. The retrieval team advanced. The hall's shadows stretched like predators themselves, twisting and swaying as they moved closer. One agent's voice finally broke the silence, distorted electronically through the mask. "You were never supposed to return." Alina's hand tightened around the weapon. Her heart beat, a steady rhythm that felt almost deafening in the suddenly quiet corridor. "I'm here," she said, "and you're going to regret every second of underestimating me." Hargrove's face was pale, his hands shaking. "Alina, be careful. They know you better than anyone else. They know what you can do." Her gaze didn't falter. "Then it's time they learn that I'm not their property." The agent lunged forward. Alina reacted instantly, a pivot and a strike that sent him sprawling. The rifle clattered across the floor, but the other agents were still advancing, silent, precise, relentless. Hargrove swallowed audibly. "They won't stop, and if they take you, no one will ever see you again." Alina glanced at him, her expression hard. "Then I won't let them." A distant rumble echoed through the corridor, followed by a sudden flicker in the emergency lights. Smoke began to curl along the edges of the floor. Something had been triggered, electrical, chemical, or both. The retrieval team paused, hesitant for the first time. Alina's eyes narrowed. She recognized the hesitation. It was an opening. She raised her sidearm. "One step closer," she warned, "and you won't leave this hallway alive." For a heartbeat, everything froze. The agents weighed their options. The guards held their collective breath. Hargrove looked on, torn between fear and awe, unable to reconcile the person in front of him with the girl he once knew. And then the corridor erupted. Smoke filled the air, alarms screamed, and Alina's eyes caught a faint glint, something metallic, moving toward her, faster than humanly possible. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She knew this was only the beginning. Because whoever had sent the retrieval team wasn't just after her. They wanted what she had become. And nothing, not even the Pentagon itself, could protect her from what was coming next. The air vibrated with tension, anticipation, and the metallic tang of fear. And somewhere in the shadows, a voice whispered through a communicator. "She's here, initiate containment." Alina's pulse surged. She was ready. Smoke hung thick in the hallway, curling around legs and ankles like a living thing, obscuring the edges of the polished floors. The alarms had been silenced, but the tension remained, coiling tighter with each passing second. Alina's eyes darted through the haze, pinpointing the exact position of the remaining retrieval agents. Every movement, every breath was measured. Every instinct screamed that she was no longer a regular human being, but she also knew she wasn't invincible. The first agent rose to his knees, swiping the floor for his weapon. Alina didn't hesitate. A swift kick sent it skittering across the floor, the metallic clang echoing down the corridor. The second agent, previously crouched in the shadows, advanced deliberately. There was a confidence in his movements that was unnerving. He wasn't just trained, he was engineered, designed to neutralize threats with precision and efficiency. "You were never supposed to return," the agent said, voice distorted through the mask. It was almost casual, almost clinical, like a scientist speaking to a failed experiment, but the threat underneath was unmistakable. "I'm here," Alina replied, voice low, controlled, but edged with ice. "And you're going to regret every second of underestimating me." The young guard behind her shifted uncomfortably, a bead of sweat running down his temple. He wasn't trained for this. No one here was, except Alina. Hargrove, standing a few steps behind, whispered almost to himself, "She's different. More than I ever imagined. They never expected this." Alina's gaze flicked toward him, but she didn't speak. She didn't need to. He had already seen enough to understand. She was the product of something dark, something forbidden, and the scars on her body were proof of the horrors she had survived. The agent lunged. Alina sidestepped with fluid grace, twisting his arm until he dropped to the ground in a heap. The air smelled of sweat, fear, and ozone from the electrical surge that had knocked out the lights. She kicked the weapon across the hall again, just to be sure. Hargrove's voice trembled. "You can't kill them. They'll use it against you. You know that." Alina's eyes narrowed. "Then tell them to stop hunting me." Hargrove shook his head, silently pleading. His hands lifted, trembling slightly. "They won't. They never stop. Not until they either break you or replicate you." Replicate? The word echoed in her mind like a death knell. She had suspected it. Every late-night training session, every injection, every strange experiment she had endured as a child, it had been part of something far larger, far more insidious than she'd realized. They hadn't just been shaping soldiers. They had been sculpting living weapons. The agent finally stood, this time keeping a calculated distance. "You were never meant to escape," he said. "The program doesn't fail, and now you're the anomaly." Alina inhaled slowly. She had expected this moment, the confrontation she had feared for years, and yet nothing could have prepared her for the raw intensity of it. She felt a surge of fury and righteous anger, tempered by the steel-hard precision of someone who had spent a lifetime surviving impossible odds. "They used children, and you called it patriotism," she spat. Her words carried through the hallway like shards of glass. Each syllable struck something raw in the remaining guards, in Hargrove, and even in the agents themselves. The agent tilted his head, almost fascinated. "And yet here you are, alive, more than alive, enhanced, adapted. That is why the general fears you. That is why we've come." Hargrove swallowed. "You don't understand. Alina, if they extract what's inside your body, they'll create dozens more like you. Entire battalions of weapons designed to kill without conscience." Alina's hands shook slightly, not from fear, but from the surge of anger, pain, and determination coursing through her veins. "Then I won't let them," she said. Her voice was calm, but it carried the weight of every secret she had endured, every moment she had been broken and forced to rise again. The agent stepped closer, calm, precise. "You cannot stop what you were born to be. It's in your body. The enhancements, the neural adaptations, you are the pinnacle of our work. That's why the general trembles. That's why they sent me. You're not human anymore. Not really." Alina's breath caught. For a moment, doubt flickered across her mind, but only for a heartbeat. She had survived death. She had survived betrayal, and she had survived their experiments. Then the agent raised a small, metallic capsule in his hand. "This will accelerate the final phase. Surrender and it will be over. Refuse and—" He let the threat hang in the air. Hargrove stepped forward, placing a hand on her shoulder. His touch was gentle, paternal, almost desperate. "Alina, don't let them finish what they started. You know what will happen if that capsule is deployed. You know it better than anyone." She nodded slightly. She did know. She had felt the changes coursing through her body for years, subtle at first, then overwhelming. Her neural system had adapted beyond human limits, her reflexes faster, her perception sharper, senses attuned to frequencies no one else could detect. She had been trained to fight. She had been trained to kill. But she had also been trained to survive, and now she would choose the battlefield. The agent moved again, the capsule glinting under the flickering lights. Alina's fingers tightened on her sidearm. Her vision narrowed, focusing on the precise angle needed to neutralize the threat. Every muscle, every thought, every instinct screamed at her to act. She lunged first. The capsule dropped, clattering against the floor, releasing a thin silver mist, harmless looking, but Alina knew better. Her instincts screamed, honed through years of experiments and nightmares. She pushed Hargrove and the guards back just in time to avoid inhaling the mist fully. A trace brushed her lips. Immediately, her vision sharpened beyond normal perception. Colors exploded into electric outlines. Details that had been invisible moments ago became painfully clear. Every movement, every shadow, every minute change in the environment was amplified. She stumbled, but only briefly. Hargrove caught her, supporting her weight. "Alina, it's happening. The enhancements, they're accelerating. Your body, it's adapting." Her pulse roared in her ears. Pain mixed with clarity, fear mixed with power. She felt the energy coiling in her muscles, in her nerves, in her brain. She had survived before, but now she was something else entirely. The agent staggered back, eyes wide behind the reflective visor. She's accelerating faster than predicted. Protocol failed. We didn't account for this." Alina straightened, a dangerous calm settling over her features. Her scars, illuminated by the flickering lights, seemed to thrum with life, each line a reminder of the suffering she had endured and the power she now commanded. Hargrove's voice was low, shaky, desperate. "Alina, you are unstable. You've never been tested like this. If you unleash what's in you—" "I know," she interrupted. Her voice was steel. "And I won't let them control me." The agent's stance stiffened. He raised his hand, trying to summon the remaining energy of the mist capsule. But Alina's reflexes were faster than he could imagine. In one fluid motion, she kicked it aside and moved forward, her every step deliberate, calculated, lethal in potential. The guards watched, frozen, caught between awe and terror. Hargrove's hand shook against his chest. "Alina, please." She didn't answer. Her gaze was fixed on the agent, not with hate, not with fear, but with a deadly focus honed by years of survival. "You've underestimated me for too long," she said softly, "and that's going to be your mistake." The agent's hand twitched toward the capsule again, but Alina was already moving. Faster, sharper, stronger. The hallway seemed to bend around her, every sound amplified, every detail crystal clear. Hargrove's eyes widened. "Alina, do." But it was too late. She had already made her move. And in that instant, the corridor, the agents, and the Pentagon itself would never be the same again. The silver mist lingered in the air, catching the red emergency lights. And somewhere, deep inside her, Alina felt the power she had feared and craved awaken fully. This was no longer about survival. It was about revenge. And the first move had been made. The hallway erupted in chaos. The silver mist from the capsule shimmered in the flickering red lights, catching on the polished Pentagon floors and making the corridor appear as though it were underwater. Guards stumbled backward, coughing, their vision momentarily distorted. The remaining retrieval agent, the one who hadn't yet lunged, froze as he realized Alina's body was no longer the one he had known from previous intelligence reports. Her movement was preternatural, almost fluid, faster than the eye could follow. Hargrove shouted, panic threading through his voice, "She's not human, stand back." The young guards hesitated, unsure whether to obey their general or trust their instincts. One of them reached for his radio, but the words stuck in his throat. Nothing they had been trained for prepared them for this. Alina was inhuman, yet fully in control, and her eyes, illuminated faintly by the emergency lights, glowed with an eerie, electric intensity. The agent recovered from his initial shock and lunged, rifle aimed. Alina shifted her weight almost imperceptibly, and when she moved, it was like a whip snapping through the air. She grabbed his wrist and twisted, disarming him with a brutal efficiency. The rifle skidded across the floor and clattered against the wall. "Stop," Hargrove barked, his voice cracking with fear. "You can't kill them. You'll unleash consequences no one can contain." Alina didn't respond. She took a deep breath, feeling the neural enhancements in her body surge to life, sending waves of adrenaline and heightened perception coursing through her system. The mist had triggered the full activation of her abilities. Every shadow, every movement, every subtle vibration in the hallway registered in her mind as clearly as if it were projected on a screen. The agent regained his footing and advanced again, his movements precise, calculated but slower than hers. "You belong to the program, Alina," he hissed. "You cannot escape what you were designed to be." "I am not yours," she snapped, her voice low, steady, and edged with lethal determination. "I am not their property, and I will never be their weapon." Hargrove's hand trembled as he raised it to halt her, but he couldn't. He had seen what she could do. He had trained the finest soldiers, orchestrated missions that spanned continents, yet this woman, this survivor, was beyond anything he had ever imagined. His voice fell to a whisper. "Alina, don't let them take you. You know what they'll do." She ignored him. Instead, she focused on the agent advancing toward her. Her body moved before her mind fully registered the calculation. A sidestep, a pivot, a swift kick to the agent's torso sent him crashing into the wall. He struggled to rise, but Alina was already on him, pinning him with a fluid, merciless precision honed through years of survival, training, and unimaginable pain. "Your enhancements make you fast," the agent said through gritted teeth, struggling under her grip. "But you can't outrun your purpose." "I don't need to outrun it," Alina said, her voice quiet but deadly. "I need to destroy it." The guards watched in awe and terror. They had been trained for active shooters, chemical attacks, terror threats, but nothing prepared them for a human being who could operate on a level that seemed beyond natural law. Hargrove's breathing grew rapid. He realized that the woman in front of him, the girl who had once been a child under his supervision, was now a force that could not be contained. The second agent, momentarily stunned by the speed and ferocity of Alina's attacks, quickly regained composure. He pulled out a small device from his belt, a remote detonator, tiny and inconspicuous. "Alina, one wrong move and this corridor becomes your tomb." She paused for a fraction of a second, her eyes narrowing. The red emergency lights reflected off the metallic walls and the polished floors, creating distorted, ghostly shadows. Her enhanced perception detected a weakness in the agent's stance, a minuscule delay between thought and action. "Too slow," she whispered. Before he could react, Alina launched herself toward him. She twisted, redirecting the force of his own momentum against him, sending him sprawling backward. The device clattered across the floor. She kicked it against the wall, destroying it. Sparks flew, mingling with the residual mist that still hung in the air, creating a surreal haze. Hargrove's voice broke through the chaos, urgent and terrified. "Alina, you're activating things inside you I never anticipated. Stop." But she didn't. Every nerve, every muscle, every atom of her being was alive with power and purpose. She felt the scars on her body pulsate faintly, like they were conduits for something far greater than she had imagined. The enhancements, dormant for years, now coursed through her blood and nerves like lightning. She was fast, strong, and aware on a level no ordinary human could comprehend. The remaining agent scrambled to his feet, now visibly shaken. "This isn't possible," he muttered. "She wasn't supposed to." Alina cut him off with a single, precise motion, disarming him and sending him crashing into a metal table. The table groaned under the impact, scattering papers and equipment across the hallway. Red lights flickered over the scene, painting everything in urgent, apocalyptic tones. Hargrove, now fully aware that conventional methods could not contain her, fell back against the wall, whispering prayers he had not uttered in decades. "Alina, don't do this here. You can't." Alina's gaze softened briefly at the sight of him. A flicker of the child she had once been, the scared, broken girl, flashed across her eyes. But it disappeared instantly, replaced by the predator, the survivor, the weapon she had been made into and had reclaimed. "I have to finish this," she said, her voice low, resolute. "Not just for me, but for everyone they've hurt." The agent, beaten but still standing, pulled out a stun device, electricity crackling along the metal prongs. He lunged. Alina sidestepped with impossible speed, letting the device pass harmlessly through the air. Her hand shot out, gripping his arm and twisting it until the device fell, shattering against the wall. The air was thick with tension, the acrid smell of ozone and heated metal filling every corner of the hallway. Guards behind her clutched their radios, unsure whether to call for backup, to flee, or to pray. Hargrove watched, horrified yet unable to look away, as the woman he had once known as a child moved with lethal grace and unearthly precision. Then, as if sensing the perfect moment, Alina hurled the remaining agent into the wall with a force that left a dent in the metal paneling. He slid to the ground, unconscious or dead. She didn't care. The retrieval team's plan had already crumbled. The Pentagon itself, a symbol of American military might, had become a stage for something primal and unstoppable. Her body hummed with energy she had never felt before. Every nerve ending was alive, every sense amplified beyond comprehension. The mist from the capsule had triggered a reaction, awakening something dormant, something that belonged neither to the human world nor to the program that had tried to control her. Hargrove swallowed audibly, his voice breaking. "Alina, you're evolving, faster than I anticipated. You." A metallic clang interrupted him. One of the younger guards had accidentally kicked a piece of debris and it rolled across the floor, echoing down the corridor. Alina's enhanced senses detected another presence, a faint vibration in the floor, the rhythm of footsteps, lighter but deliberate. "They're still coming," she said, eyes narrowing. "Another team, they won't stop." Hargrove's lips pressed into a thin line. He had trained soldiers to fight, but he had never seen anyone fight like this. You have to leave," he said, almost pleading. "Go now, before they bring more. You can't stay here." Alina glanced toward the emergency exit at the end of the hall. Her jacket hung open, revealing the scars that told a story no one could understand. Her duffel bag was still at her feet, containing weapons and devices she had packed in case this exact scenario unfolded. She looked back at Hargrove one last time. "I can't just leave them," she said quietly, almost to herself. "Not yet." The lights flickered again. Shadows danced across the walls. A faint metallic whisper reached her ears, the telltale sound of the retrieval team preparing to breach another corridor. Alina tightened her grip on her sidearm. She was ready. And she knew, deep in her bones, that the next move would determine not just her survival, but the fate of anyone who had ever been trapped in the program with her. The mist lingered in the air, catching the flickering red light. The walls seemed to close in. The agents were down, but the threat was far from over. And somewhere beyond the smoke and shadows, the people who had created her and the nightmares she had endured were still watching. She took a deep breath. Then she stepped forward. The hallway echoed with every deliberate step, each one carrying the promise of confrontation, of reckoning, and of revenge. And at that moment, for the first time in years, Alina Marks felt truly alive. But the question that hung in the air, heavy and inevitable, was clear. Would she survive what was coming next? The corridor smelled of ozone, sweat, and burnt metal, the mist curling in soft silver clouds around Alina's legs. Her body still thrummed with the energy the capsule had awakened, the neural enhancements coursing through her veins like lightning. Every nerve ending screamed with power and anticipation. She could feel it all. The rhythm of the guards' heartbeats behind her, the vibrations of the agents' footsteps down the hallway, even the distant hum of machinery far beyond the emergency doors. The first agent she had thrown against the wall lay unmoving. The second stirred but was slow, dazed by the combination of physical trauma and her now fully awakened abilities. Yet there was another danger she hadn't anticipated. The program itself, the secret project that had taken her as a child and tried to mold her into a weapon, was still alive in the minds of those who had engineered it. Hargrove stepped closer, his eyes darting between the damaged agent, the other guards, and Alina herself. "Alina, you have to understand. They don't just want you back, they want to replicate you. Extract what's inside you and create dozens more like you. You can't let them." "I know," she said quietly, the sound of her voice almost lost beneath the hum of residual energy in the hallway. "I've known it for years." The agent on the floor groaned and moved, still conscious, eyes wide with fear and disbelief. She shouldn't be alive. "No one survives the final phase," he whispered, his voice trembling. "The enhancements, they—" Alina didn't wait for him to finish. In one fluid motion, she twisted his wrist, knocking him to the ground again, disarming him entirely. Her sidearm gleamed in her hand, the red emergency light glinting off its polished metal. Every movement, every step was perfectly calculated. She had trained for this, but now her body was faster than she had ever been, sharper, almost superhuman. Hargrove's voice trembled as he reached out to her. "Alina, the neural acceleration is too strong. If they trigger another retrieval attempt, if they push the program, they could." "I can handle it," she said, cutting him off. Her eyes, glowing faintly with the unnatural blue from the mist, locked on the agent. She could see the micro-expression in his eyes, the precise angle of his shoulders, the exact trajectory of his next move. Every possibility mapped itself in her mind before it even happened. The agent scrambled to retrieve something from his belt, but she was already there. Her hand shot out, catching the small device in midair. Sparks erupted as metal collided, the smell of ozone thick in the air. Alina's lips curved into a grim smile. "You really underestimated me." Hargrove swallowed hard. "Alina, if you use that energy inside you fully, you risk." "I know exactly what I risk," she said, voice steel. "But I also know what they've done to countless others. I won't let them continue, not today." The mist from the capsule lingered, settling in the corners of the hallway. It had triggered a complete activation of her enhancements. Her vision sharpened. The hallways seemed to stretch infinitely, every shadow, every reflection, every subtle movement visible to her. She could anticipate the agents' movements before they happened, feel their intentions before they acted. The second agent, fully recovered now, stepped forward, weapon ready. His movements were precise, synchronized, lethal. "You think you can fight what we've perfected for years," he said. "You're an anomaly. We will contain you." Alina's pulse surged. "Contain me? No one contains me." In an instant she moved. Faster than the eye could track, she disarmed him, twisting his arm, knocking him to the ground. Every strike, every motion was executed with deadly precision. It wasn't just strength, it was calculation, honed by years of training, enhanced by the neural acceleration coursing through her body. Hargrove's face was pale. "Alina, they designed you to adapt, but you're beyond their calculations. If you keep going, if they push this program again." "They'll fail," she said, her voice low, unyielding. "Because I'm not their experiment anymore. I'm free, and I decide how this ends." Her eyes scanned the hallway. She knew more agents were approaching. Their presence was faint, but she could feel the vibrations through the polished floor, the subtle rhythm of their steps. She adjusted her stance, every muscle coiled and ready. Then the first agent, the one she had subdued earlier, let out a weak chuckle. "You think it ends here. You think you're in control. They will come for you again, and next time they won't fail." Alina's hand tightened around her weapon. "Let them come," she said. I'll be ready." A sudden, sharp sound echoed from the far end of the corridor, metal against metal, a faint rhythmic tapping. Another team was moving in faster than she expected. Hargrove's face went white. "They're faster than anticipated," he muttered. "Elena, you need to." "I know," she interrupted, moving forward. Her body was humming with the enhanced neural activity, every step precise, every decision pre-calculated. She felt the power coursing through her, not as a burden but as a weapon, as a shield, as a statement. The retrieval agents lunged, but she was already ahead of them. One by one, she neutralized their attacks with fluid, lethal precision. Each movement was almost artistic in its execution, a deadly ballet that left the hallway littered with incapacitated soldiers and broken equipment. Hargrove watched, horrified yet in awe, as the woman who had once been a child under his supervision moved like a force of nature. "Elena, you've surpassed everything we taught you," he whispered. "Everything we imagined, you are beyond it." She didn't answer. Her eyes were fixed ahead, scanning for any remaining threats. The hallway seemed empty now, but she knew better. The program would not stop until she was captured, until her abilities were contained, until her body and mind were fully under their control. And she would not allow that. Her breathing was steady, controlled. Her body still thrummed with power, every nerve alive with energy. The scars along her chest and shoulders seemed to pulse faintly, a reminder of the horrors she had endured and the strength she had reclaimed. Then she felt it, a subtle vibration beneath her feet, a signal she couldn't ignore. Another team, hidden, moving silently, closing in. She turned her head slightly, detecting the faintest shadow in the corner of her enhanced vision. "They never stop," Hargrove murmured, "even when we thought the program ended." Elena's lips curved into a faint, deadly smile. "Good," she said, "because neither do I." Her sidearm was ready, every muscle coiled, every nerve sharp. The next move would decide not just her fate, but the fate of the program, the people it had manipulated, and the legacy of the horrors she had survived. A faint metallic whisper reached her ears, the telltale sound of another retrieval device being activated. She could see it, tiny and almost invisible, vibrating in the hands of a hidden agent. Her pulse quickened, not with fear but with anticipation. "This ends tonight," she whispered, almost to herself. Then the lights flickered, shadows dancing across the walls, and the corridor seemed to stretch infinitely. Another sound reached her ears, a metallic click, precise, deliberate. Another agent was stepping into the hallway, weapon drawn, eyes locked on her. Elena tightened her grip. She was ready. And she knew, deep in her bones, that the real fight, the one that would determine everything, was about to begin. The hallway held its breath. The mist hung heavy. And somewhere beyond the smoke and the chaos, the program was watching. The hallway felt alive, vibrating with tension and the unrelenting hum of danger. The mist from the capsule lingered, curling in ghostly spirals, reflecting the flickering red emergency lights. Elena stood at the center, her jacket open, scars visible under the harsh glow, every line a map of survival and pain. Her body still thrummed with energy, neural enhancements running at full capacity, reflexes heightened to a degree no ordinary human could comprehend. Every sense, every instinct was on high alert. Hargrove's voice shook as he spoke, almost pleading. "Elena, the neural acceleration, it's unstable. They've never seen anything like this. If it surges any further, it could." "I know," she interrupted, her tone calm but deadly. "And I'll control it, I always have." The retrieval agent she had thrown into the wall earlier stirred. The metallic click of movement echoed in the corridor. Elena didn't need to see him fully. Her enhanced senses detected the micro-adjustments of his muscles, the faint pulse of adrenaline racing through his veins. She knew exactly where he would move and exactly how to intercept him. Hargrove's face paled. "Elena, you're evolving faster than anticipated. You could surpass containment, and if that happens..." "I'll destroy the program," she finished for him. Her lips curved slightly, a grim acknowledgement of the violence she had endured and the vengeance she now embodied. "I won't let them use what they've done to me on anyone else." The agent lunged, weapon in hand. Alina moved before he completed the motion. She pivoted, twisting his wrist, disarming him and sending him crashing into the wall with a force that made a metallic clang echo down the corridor. He groaned, dazed, and attempted to rise again, but she was already there, ready, coiled like a predator. "Stop!" Hargrove shouted, desperation piercing his normally composed voice. "If you go further the program, it will take everything you have left and turn it against you." Alina's eyes flickered toward him for a brief second, the only hint of hesitation, and then hardened. "I have nothing left to lose, only justice." The mist swirled as if responding to her energy, the residual effects of the capsule amplifying her abilities. Her vision sharpened further, every shadow, every reflection, every faintest movement visible in high detail. The hallway became a battlefield, each corner a potential threat, each echo a clue to enemy movement. The second agent, still conscious and furious, retrieved a small, metallic device from his belt. Alina's enhanced perception caught it instantly, another trap, another containment mechanism. Sparks ignited as she kicked it aside and the device skittered harmlessly down the hall. The agent froze, panic flashing in his eyes. He had underestimated her fully. Hargrove's breathing was shallow. "Alina, you're more than they ever imagined. If they push the next phase, it could destroy everything in its path." "I know," she replied softly. Her voice carried the weight of someone who had survived unimaginable horrors. Her eyes scanned the far end of the corridor. She could feel the presence of more agents converging, their footsteps synchronized, calculated, precise. They were coming for her, for the weapon she had been forced to become, for the anomaly she had become. The mist thickened slightly, giving the hallway a surreal, almost dreamlike quality. Alina's neural enhancements allowed her to anticipate the agent's movements before they even decided to act. She sidestepped, grabbed the closest, and flipped him onto the floor with a precise motion that left him incapacitated. She moved fluidly, each action a deadly dance. Hargrove whispered almost in awe, "Alina, they designed you to adapt, but you're beyond their calculations. Faster, stronger, more aware than anything they could predict." She didn't respond. There was no time for words. Her focus was on the approaching threat. Every fiber of her being screamed that the next encounter would test the limits of her abilities. The metallic echo of footsteps grew louder, faster, synchronized. Another team of agents hidden in the shadows was closing in. They were trained for one thing: neutralize and extract. They would not hesitate and they would not fail. Alina inhaled slowly, feeling the power thrumming through her. The scars along her shoulders and chest seemed to pulse faintly, resonating with the energy of her enhanced neural system. Every scar was a memory, every line a testament to survival. She flexed her fingers, feeling the latent strength coiled within her, ready to release. The first agent from the new team stepped forward, weapon raised. His movements were precise, lethal. "You cannot escape what you are," he said. "The program owns you." "I am no one's property," Alina replied, her voice a dangerous whisper. Her body moved before he could react. A swift kick, a pivot, a twist, and he crashed against the wall, dazed and disarmed. The remaining agents froze for the first time, uncertainty flickering in their movements. Alina's presence, enhanced and lethal, radiated a power they had not anticipated. Hargrove muttered, "They've never accounted for this. She's unstoppable." Alina's attention shifted to the far end of the corridor. She could feel the subtle vibrations of another device, another containment attempt. She sprinted forward, enhanced muscles propelling her faster than human limits, and crushed the device under her boot. Sparks flew, mist swirled, and a metallic shriek echoed through the hall. The agents regrouped, realizing their standard tactics were ineffective. Hargrove stepped forward, trembling. "Alina, The next move could trigger the final phase. You may not survive it, no one ever has. I'll survive, she whispered, more to herself than to him, because I have to. The corridor seemed to warp around her enhanced perception. Every shadow, every reflection, every micro-movement was a data point in her mind. She anticipated the next attacks, the trajectory of every weapon, the subtle shifts in muscle tension. The lead agent raised a stun device, electricity crackling along its prongs. Elena sidestepped effortlessly, letting the device pass harmlessly through the air. She grabbed the agent, twisting and flipping him to the floor with brutal precision. Sparks ignited where metal met metal. Hargrove's voice cracked. Elena, if they trigger the program fully. They won't, she said, voice calm, steel hard, because I'm not theirs anymore. The mist hung heavy, the hallway echoing with the sounds of struggle and the hum of latent energy coursing through her body. Another agent lunged from the shadows, but Elena was already moving, faster than they could anticipate. She neutralized him in a single, fluid motion, the force enough to leave dents in the walls. She stopped briefly, surveying the hallway. Every remaining threat had been temporarily subdued, but she knew more were coming. The program would not let her walk free. Hargrove swallowed hard, fear etched into every line of his face. Elena, this is only the beginning. They will not stop. They will escalate. Her lips curved into a grim, almost predatory smile. Good, she said, because neither will I. The air was thick with tension, power, and the latent hum of her enhancements. The scars along her chest pulsed faintly, a reminder of every trial, every betrayal, every death she had survived. She flexed her fingers, ready for the inevitable next wave. And in that moment, as the hallway held its breath, she knew one truth. The real battle, the one that would define her life and the remnants of the program, was only just beginning. The mist swirled, shadows danced, and the faint metallic sound of more agents approaching reached her ears. Elena's pulse surged. She was ready. And whatever came next, she would not be taken. The hallway had become a battlefield. Mist swirled around Elena's legs, reflecting the harsh red emergency lights like a hellish sunset. Her body still thrummed with the accelerated energy of the capsule, every nerve alive with electricity, every muscle ready to move before thought itself could react. She had neutralized the initial teams, but instinct told her this was far from over. The program would not accept failure, never had, never would. Hargrove pressed himself against the wall, fear etched across his lined face. Elena, this is it. They're mobilizing the final phase. You may not survive it. No one has. I know, she said, her voice low, unwavering. Then I will ensure I survive on my own terms. From the shadows at the far end of the corridor, a mechanical hum began to grow, a sound distinct, ominous, unnatural. Elena's enhanced perception picked up every subtle vibration, footsteps, distant machinery, the synchronized breathing of soldiers trained to kill. She narrowed her eyes. The final team had arrived, but they were different. Their movements were more calculated, more precise, almost inhuman. They've upgraded them, Hargrove muttered, voice trembling. The program, it's adapting as we speak. Elena's lips pressed into a thin line. Her body pulsed with energy, the neural enhancements now fully active. She had trained for every imaginable scenario, survived every nightmare the program had forced upon her, but this was uncharted territory. And yet, she was ready. The first upgraded agent stepped forward, clad in matte black tactical armor. His reflective visor hid his eyes, but Elena could feel his awareness, his intent, his precise calculation of the battlefield. He raised a weapon, sleek, unfamiliar, deadly. You cannot escape what you are, the agent said, voice distorted through the mask. The program will reclaim you. I am no one's property, Elena replied, her voice steel hard. Every word vibrated with authority, power, and unshakable resolve. I am my own. The agent lunged. Elena moved first. Faster than human perception, she sidestepped, twisted, and struck, sending him sprawling against the wall. Sparks erupted from the armor, but he rose immediately, unhindered, moving like a shadow. Hargrove groaned, pressing a hand to his forehead. Alina, they're not like the others, the enhancements they've evolved. Faster, stronger, coordinated. If they capture you. I won't let them, she said quietly, scanning the corridor. Every micro-adjustment in their movements, every subtle shift in their stance was mapped in her mind. She had trained for adaptability, but now the enhancements allowed her to anticipate, react, and counter with precision far beyond ordinary limits. The second agent advanced, a pulse rifle in hand. Alina calculated his trajectory, his center of balance, his likely next move. She lunged, disarming him, and sent the weapon clattering across the floor. He dove toward her again, but she was already moving, twisting, striking, neutralizing him with calculated force. Hargrove's breathing was ragged. Alina, if you push the neural acceleration fully, you could become uncontrollable. The system, it could consume you from within. Her eyes flickered with a faint glow. Then I will control it, I always have. The mist still hung thick, swirling with every movement, making the hallway seem almost liquid. The red lights flickered, throwing shadows that danced across walls and floors like specters. Another agent appeared from the side corridor, faster than the eye could track. Alina's body reacted instinctively, intercepting him mid-stride, redirecting his momentum, and sending him into a wall with a force that left a dent. She paused briefly, surveying the scene. Every agent she had faced so far was down, neutralized, but her sensors detected more. Subtle vibrations in the floor, the faint hiss of air, the synchronized rhythm of enhanced footsteps approaching from multiple directions. They've brought in everything, Hargrove said, voice trembling. The core team, they won't stop until they reclaim you or kill you. Alina's pulse surged, but not with fear, with focus, determination. Rage. Every scar on her body seemed to thrum in time with her heartbeat, every line a testament to survival and the horrors she had endured. She flexed her fingers, the energy inside her ready to release. A sudden metallic click echoed down the corridor. A new team had arrived, faster, stronger, smarter. Alina's enhanced perception locked onto them instantly. She could see the smallest micro-movements, the shift of weight, the subtlest muscle twitches. The hallway became a chessboard, each agent a piece she could anticipate, manipulate, and neutralize. The first of the final phase agents lunged. Alina sidestepped with impossible speed, spinning, striking with precision. Sparks flew where metal met flesh, a testament to the deadly ballet unfolding. She moved like water flowing around threats, striking where necessary, incapacitating without hesitation. Hargrove pressed a hand to his mouth, whispering, Alina, this is beyond anything we've trained for. You're something else entirely. She didn't respond. Focus consumed her. Every move, every step, every breath was calculated, executed with precision and lethal efficiency. She felt the pulse of the agents' movements, the rhythm of their assault, the subtle anticipation of their next action. She had evolved beyond them, beyond the program, beyond human limits. An agent lunged from the side corridor, but she was already there, twisting, striking, neutralizing him with a fluid motion. Another followed, met with the same fate. Sparks flew, the metallic clang echoing through the hall, mingling with the hum of her enhanced neural system. Hargrove stepped back almost in disbelief. Alina, they've never seen this before. No one has. You're unstoppable. Her lips curved into a grim, almost predatory smile. Good, she said, because neither will I stop. The remaining agents regrouped, realizing that standard tactics were useless. Alina's movements were too fast, too precise, too unpredictable. The neural enhancements coursing through her body allowed her to anticipate every attack, counter every move, and strike with lethal accuracy. The air in the corridor vibrated with energy, tension, and anticipation. Every scar on her body seemed to resonate with the power surging through her veins. She was no longer just a survivor. She was the reckoning. Then from the far end of the corridor a sound, a low metallic vibration echoed. A faint glow of machinery pulsed beneath the floor. Elena froze, sensing it instantly. The program itself was activating. The core, the heart of the experiments that had shaped her, was coming online. Hargrove's voice was almost a whisper. Elena, the core, it's activating. If it fully engages, it could destroy everything in this building. Elena's eyes narrowed. Every nerve, every muscle, every fiber of her being hummed with energy. The final confrontation was here. The program would not leave her alive. She would not allow it. She took a deep breath, feeling the full extent of the neural acceleration in her veins. Her body coiled, ready to strike, to defend, to survive. The hallway seemed to shrink around her, every detail magnified, every movement anticipated. The agents lunged once more, synchronized, precise. But Elena was beyond synchronization, beyond calculation. She moved faster than their eyes could follow, striking, disarming, neutralizing one after another. Sparks and debris littered the corridor. The mist swirled thickly, catching the red light, painting the hallway like a scene from a nightmare. Hargrove watched, awe and terror warring on his face. Elena, you've become more than human. She paused briefly, glancing down the corridor toward the faint glow of the core. The program's heart, the source of everything she had endured. Her scars throbbed in time with her heartbeat, each line a memory, each mark a story of survival, vengeance, and ultimate determination. I will end this, she whispered, voice low, deadly, unyielding. Tonight. And as the final agents regrouped for another assault, the glow of the core pulsed, and the corridor seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the storm that was Elena Marks to unleash her full fury. The glow of the core pulsed like a heartbeat, a mechanical rhythm that seemed almost alive. Elena stood at the threshold of the central chamber, mist curling around her legs, scars illuminated by the harsh red emergency lights. The hallway behind her was littered with incapacitated agents, sparks from broken metal and weapons reflecting off the polished floors like shards of fire. Every nerve in her body hummed with heightened perception, every muscle coiled like a spring. Hargrove pressed himself against the wall, pale and trembling. Elena, this is it. The program, it's fully online now. If it activates completely, it will consume everything in this building. Everyone. I know, Elena whispered, eyes fixed on the glowing core ahead. And it ends tonight. The door to the chamber loomed before her, reinforced steel etched with faint burn marks from failed previous breaches. She could feel it, the energy pulsing within, the culmination of years of horrors, experiments, and control. Her neural enhancements flared, giving her a terrifying clarity. Every line of the program's design, every algorithm it had created to hunt, manipulate, and reclaim her, was visible in her mind as patterns, weak points, and vulnerabilities. The door hissed and began to slide open. Inside, the core chamber was vast, industrial, humming with a cold, clinical light. Metallic scaffolding twisted upward toward a central console, where wires snaked like veins into the massive glowing core. The air vibrated with power. This was the heart of the program, the source of the experiments, the place where children had been broken, transformed, weaponized. A voice, distorted and mechanical, filled the chamber. Elena Marks, you have been anticipated. You are an anomaly. Surrender or you will be terminated. Elena's jaw tightened. I am not an anomaly, she said. Her voice echoed in the chamber, sharp and unyielding. I am the reckoning. As she stepped inside, the lights flickered violently. The core pulsed faster as if aware of her presence. The room seemed to contract, the hum of energy growing into a low roar. Sensors on the walls activated, mechanical arms rising, weapons aimed. Automated defense systems, previously dormant, now came to life. Hargrove's voice trembled through the comms. Elena, they've activated everything. This is no longer a test. The core, it will try to assimilate your neural patterns if it succeeds. I'll make sure it doesn't, she interrupted, feeling the power inside her flare to unprecedented levels. Every scar on her body pulsed as if in resonance with the core's energy. Her neural enhancements flared outward, allowing her to anticipate every mechanical movement before it happened. The first automated arm lunged toward her, metallic claws snapping. Alina moved faster than thought, sidestepping, twisting, and using its own momentum to hurl it into a wall. Sparks erupted, mingling with the swirling mist and red lights, creating a scene of chaotic beauty and lethal efficiency. More arms activated, swinging with calculated precision. Alina flowed between them, striking, disarming, destroying, each motion a perfect combination of her lethal training and enhanced reflexes. The room seemed alive, but she was faster, stronger, more aware than any machine, any human, any weapon could contend with. Hargrove whispered almost in awe, "Alina, you're beyond them, beyond what they imagined. You are unstoppable." Her lips curved into a grim smile. "Good," she said, "because I intend to destroy everything they created." The core pulsed brighter, humming with energy as if aware of her intent. Wires and conduits surged with power. The mechanical defenses became more aggressive, faster, synchronized. Alina's pulse surged. Her enhancements flared again, neural acceleration reaching its peak. Every muscle, every nerve, every thought was perfectly attuned to the battlefield. She leapt toward the core, landing on a platform of metallic scaffolding. Sparks erupted beneath her feet as her enhanced strength crushed metal supports. The automated arms lunged again, but she twisted, flipping through the air with impossible speed, dismantling them piece by piece. The distorted voice filled the chamber again. "You cannot destroy the core. You are an anomaly. Surrender now." Alina's gaze locked on the glowing center of the core. She could see the algorithms, the programming, the very essence of the project, the culmination of years of human experimentation and cruelty. Her hands gripped the core's exterior, fingers burning with energy as she applied force, using both her strength and neural coordination to disrupt the system. Sparks flew. The hum became a roar. Hargrove's voice came over the comms, urgent and terrified. "Alina, the core is resisting. If you push too hard, it could explode. You could." "I can control it," she said, her voice calm, almost eerily so. Her eyes glowed faintly as neural energy surged, synchronizing with the mechanical heart. She felt it, a connection, a resonance between her enhanced body and the machinery that had once enslaved her. She twisted, redirected, disrupted, her every movement precise. The core shuddered. Sparks erupted like fireworks, wires snapping, mechanical arms collapsing. Alarms blared. The remaining automated defenses froze, unable to reconcile her unpredictable, lightning-fast movements. Alina's body moved with an almost inhuman grace, dismantling, disabling, and destroying simultaneously. Hargrove whispered almost reverently, "She's controlling it somehow." Alina's lips pressed together. This was the moment she had trained for, survived for, lived for. Every scar on her body pulsed in tandem with the core, a symphony of pain and power. She pressed harder, neural enhancements blazing, manipulating the core's systems from within, turning the machinery against itself. The room shook violently, sparks flew, red lights flickered. A low, metallic shriek filled the chamber. Then with a final, resonant pulse, the core imploded inward, metal collapsing on itself, systems shutting down in a chain reaction. The automated arms fell inert. The mist dissipated, the emergency lights stilled. Silence descended. Alina fell to one knee, breathing heavily, every muscle trembling with exertion and neural overload. Hargrove's voice came through, shaky and awe-filled. "Alina, you did it. You destroyed the core, the program, it's finished." She looked around at the ruined chamber, at the sparks and smoke, at the debris scattered like a battlefield frozen in time. Her scars ached, but they reminded her of survival, of pain endured, of horrors overcome. She had reclaimed herself, destroyed the system that had sought to control her, and survived the impossible. Hargrove stepped forward cautiously, eyes wide with disbelief. You survived. You didn't just survive, you defeated everything. No one else could have you." Alina straightened, energy still thrumming in her body, a dangerous calm in her eyes. "I am not just surviving," she said, voice steady, commanding. "I am living, and I decide my own path." The hallway beyond the chamber was silent. The mist had lifted. The alarms had ceased. The once feared program, the project that had shaped her, hunted her, and attempted to weaponize her existence, was gone. But Alina knew better than to relax completely. The world would try again. There would always be those who sought to exploit power, to control, to dominate. But for now, she had survived, she had fought, and she had won. She looked at Hargrove, faint smile on her lips. "It's over for now." He nodded, relief flooding his features. "Alina, you've changed everything. You've freed them, freed yourself. You're extraordinary." "I've always been extraordinary," she said, voice low, almost a whisper. "They just didn't see it until now." The chamber was quiet now, the smoke curling slowly, the faint smell of ozone and scorched metal lingering. The scars on her body throbbed, but they were no longer marks of captivity. They were symbols of survival, strength, and the power to reclaim one's destiny. As she walked toward the exit, her steps confident, measured, the emergency lights reflecting off her figure, she knew one thing with absolute certainty. The world had underestimated her, and it would never do so again. She stepped into the hallway, ready to face whatever came next. And somewhere, far away, the echoes of the program's remnants whispered of vengeance, adaptation, and inevitability. But Alina was already gone, moving forward into a future she alone would define. The scars on her body ached faintly, a reminder of pain endured, but in her heart, a spark of indomitable strength burned brighter than any threat, any program, or any enemy could ever extinguish. And for the first time in her life, Alina Marks was truly free.